Today we've got Vinay over here. Vinay, he's based in Victoria, so he's probably principal point of contact, I would say, for the likes of Bluesound. We've got Paul, who's our technical guru at Bluesound, and then we've got Dave.
He's the talking head.
Yeah, the guy chatting away today. I just want to say a quick thing about Bluesound in my experience. And when Bluesound first came out, there was really just that one brand, Sonos, that dominated the market. And the issue for us is that we sell a lot of product that is medium and high-end product, and having Sonos didn't really seem consistent with what we were doing. So when we heard about Bluesound, a very exclusive release, we knew that we could have something that could have the convenience of that would suit an audio-centric company.
There you go.
So it's all very exciting. It supported more zones, high-res audio, all of these things, all very exciting.
Yeah, it's good.
But I think the big issue is that it's complicated for a lot of customers. And I think what we really need to do is bring it back to its roots. So Bluesound, being a Lendbrook company, is the amplification is by NAD. So NAD is one of the great amplifier brands, and the speakers you've got PSP. So one also fantastic speaker brand. So the key thing that I would like to tell you guys, the one thing to take away is each product will be a great product on its own merits. So if you're listening to a Pulse, just focus initially just on the Pulse for its merits. It's a great sounding dock. The Flex, the sound bars. You just need to Google it. Have a look at all the reviews. These guys get the top reviews. They don't just get the top review for the multi-room system, but they get great reviews for their products as a whole. So don't think about selling someone a house full of stuff. Just think about a product on its own merits. If they want a really good sound bar, keep this one, keep the Bluesound in mind. After that, once they're familiar with the product, then the discussion can go on. But I think we've been extremely impressed by the first generation and even more impressed by the second generation. All right, I'll pass it across to you, Dave.
All right, thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for your time. We won't take up too much of it. So, as you just heard, Bluesound comes from a strong audio pedigree. NAD amps, PSP speakers. As you just heard, get the customer to buy one thing, all right? I've bought the soundbar down and the Pulse Flex. So this is our smallest wireless speaker. I picked these two for a couple of reasons. Firstly, the soundbar is more than just a soundbar. Okay, it's also a very good wireless speaker as well. So it's an audiophile quality wireless speaker. So you can do stereo through it, do music through it, as well as movies. Okay. Now the Pulse Flex, probably doesn't do too much different to any other wireless speaker out there, but it does have a battery pack that retails for $99, and it makes it portable. Okay, so you can take your audiophile quality wireless speaker and you can take it wherever you want to go, and you've got about 8 hours of battery with it. Okay, so just a quick PowerPoint, we'll just look at some of the slides, and then what we'll do is go through the soundbar and the Flex and show you how to set it up, show you how easy it is to set up, and show you what you can actually do with it, right? Because it's more than just stick it under your TV and watch a movie through it. So the big point, I guess, is that by the end of 2018, wireless streaming players and wireless speakers are going to be worth about $13.75 billion US. Okay, now we all want a slice of that pie, right? It's a pretty big pie. So more than 50% of all home audio these days has some form of Wi-Fi or wireless component in it. And soundbars getting bigger and bigger because people want to downsize, or people don't want to commit to a Dolby Atmos 7.1 system, so you can get a soundbar that does the job for you. So who's who in wireless audio, right? You guys would have seen all this before. So your entry level stuff, your simple stuff is your Bluetooth portable, speakerphone, battery powered, right? I never met these dogs doing that, right? You can go onto eBay and find no-name brands right up to brands like JBL, Logitech, Pioneer, that sort of thing. Then we go into things like Apple AirPlay, Bluetooth, aptX, controlled by apps. Speaker sounds a bit better. Okay, so that puts you into your B&W, NAD, that sort of thing, B&O. Then you go into your wireless multi-room setups. All right, you guys are obviously very familiar with that, Sonos, EOS. All right, I see that you've got that as well. And then we take the next step up into audiophile range, where we've got high resolution multi-room systems. All right, and that kind of brings us into Bluesound. Okay, so Bluesound runs on the BluOs platform, which we're going to go over in a couple of minutes. But the key points about the BluOs platform is that it's developed in-house in the Lenbrook company. Right? It's not done by a third-party corporation. So basically what they have is an entire floor pool of people who sit there working on the BluOs system every day. Okay, and our feedback about BluOs, the system, goes directly back to them and is acted on. We've suggested things and had it incorporated into the next update. Okay, so we've got a direct line in. All right, and it's got a lot of room to move. Right, the architecture is still got lots of places to go. Okay, so every update brings more features with it. As we said, state-of-the-art equipment, so your NAD digital amplifiers, your PSP speakers. All right, so if you've heard PSP speakers, they sound very, very good. All right, if you've heard an NAD amplifier, then I probably don't need to say any more. If you haven't, do yourself a favour, go listen to one. All right, so this is just a long list of features. All right, I guess the key points are that your library can manage over 200,000 tracks. Okay, that's a lot of songs. The soundbar doesn't just play what comes into it. If you connect an optical input from your TV, it has a Dolby decoder on board, so it'll do a 2.1 Dolby sound. All Bluesound players are high resolution. They all do 24-bit 192K, every single one of them, okay, natively. So we're one of the first brands to pick up MQA and decode it. Everyone knows what MQA is, master quality audio, so true high-res stuff. So the key features, I guess, all of our stuff is digital. All of the amplification is digital. Okay, there's no analog. It's all 24 192. BluOs works on Android, iOS, Mac, and PC, and Windows rather. So whatever you've got, you can get the BluOs app to work on it. You can use music from any source. So our Pulse Flex here, we've got a USB stick plugged in the back with some HD audio on it. Okay, so that gives you flexibility. You can import if you've got the Bluesound Vault, which is a CD ripping 2 terabyte hard drive built in, you can use that as a NAS drive. You can import your iTunes library into that. The sky's the limit. And you can also use it if you've got music stored on your computer. You can incorporate it into your home network and stream from that. So as we said, so if we're talking about the Vault, which is kind of, I guess, the heart of the range, which is a CD ripping machine, that'll allow you to rip in either FLAC or MP3. Okay, so you can have FLAC, which is lossless, or you can have MP3, which has got a bit of loss involved, depending on how much space you want to take up. Bluesound supports WAV, AIFF, MP3, pretty much any audio format out there, it'll play back. And as I said, we're one of the first to pick up MQA. So with the radio stations like TuneIn, that sort of stuff, TuneIn we do about 192 because it's an older technology, but all the other radio stations do about 320K, which is better than most of the competitors. All our D-to-A converters are Burr Brown. So we just have a look at what customers want from wireless audio. All right, and I'm probably not telling you guys anything you don't already know, but they want it to be simple. They want to use an app to control it. They want to be able to have multiple people control it in the same network. They want it to integrate seamlessly with what they've already got. And they want to be able to play music from any source. So whether that's their existing library, stream from Tidal or something similar, or direct from their smartphone. And they want to find a way to find new music. So I guess at this point, my own personal Bluesound story is probably a good time to sell. So my dad owns Convoy. He gave me a Vault about 18 months ago. Now, my experience with wireless stuff up to that point had been very hit and miss. You know, not Bluesound specifically, but just in general. I'm sure everyone's got a horrific Wi-Fi or wireless story that they can tell. So basically, it sat in my lounge room for 3 months before I summoned up the courage to get out of the box and actually get it up and running. Now that was a big mistake, because that was 3 months I didn't have an amazing piece of equipment that allows me to put a CD in, it finds all the data, and my massive CD collection is slowly but surely getting into one place. And when I want to play whatever I feel like playing, I open up the app on my phone, on my Surface, I find it, I play it. Right? There's no getting your CD out, putting it in the player, putting it back, forgetting to put it back and getting scratched, that sort of thing. Okay, so that's the kind of versatility that we're talking about. And when we look at what customers expect, it's a simple, easy to use piece of equipment and software. So we don't use any licensed technology, like I said. The BluOs app is completely owned and controlled by Lembrook. It's used in Bluesound, obviously, NAD amplifiers and the AV receivers, PSP speakers, and it's just been picked up by Dali loudspeakers. So most people would have heard of Dali, I'm sure. They've got a powered range of speakers that have BluOs native to it. So the fact that BluOs is now being picked up by other brands, I think that tells a good story that it works, it's easy to use, and it's quality. The key differences, I guess, against what other people are using to use their wireless system is that BluOs you can create up to 64 different zones, okay, and at no point do you need to wire it. It's completely wireless, okay, as opposed to some other brands where you've got to put a wired connection in after so many zones, okay. Every Bluesound player does high-res audio, 24-bit, 192K, okay. Our app has Spotify, Tidal, Roon, most of the other streaming services, TuneIn Radio, all that, all built in. All you've got to do is put your login details into it, and it's there as a source to select, right? There's no need to go to a separate app and open up Spotify or Tidal. It's all in BluOs. Regular updates, so like I said, things we've fed back to Lembrook have appeared in updates, and the players and the software are regularly updated, and they push to the player and to your phone. So if you're using your app on the mobile app, it'll automatically update like it does for every other app. If you're using a desktop or a Mac, when you open it up, it will come up and tell you that there's a new version available. When there's a firmware upgrade for your player, it'll come up on the app and tell you that there's an update available for your player. You can either do it there and then, or you can delay it 24 hours. Okay, so very simple to use. I've never had any issue with updating my machines. So if we have a look at BluOs, or Bluesound rather, against Sonos, EOS, Samsung, BOs, this is just a comparison of what our range sits against the others. So the Pulse 2 is our biggest one against the Sonos 5, EOS 7, and so on and so on. And like I said, I think EOS have got, the EOS 1 has a battery, but so does the Pulse Flex. Okay, and if you play the two side by side, I'm sure it'll speak for itself. So just to compare the two against each other, the Pulse 2 is the biggest one. It's got an 80-watt amp, tri-amp, so tweeter, mid-range and bass driver all have separate amplifier, and it just goes down through the range. Okay, there's also a wall mount available for your Pulse Flex, so if you want to mount it to a wall, there's a wall mounting kit that you can get. And like we said, designed by Paul Barton of PSP Speakers. Now, talked about the Watt Hi-Fi before. We consistently win Product of the Year from Watt Hi-Fi year in, year out. Okay, the Volts won it, Soundbars won it. So it's not just me telling you it's great. Okay, other independent people also agree. Okay, MQA, we're one of the first brands to pick up MQA decoding in our players. I guess a key point is that Bluesound is designed by audio people. So take Sonos for example, it's done by computer people. Okay. In no way is Sonos bad, but there's a distinct difference between people who have audio as their focus and computers. So in our electronics, we've got the node and power node. So our node is basically a source only, so you need another amplifier to create the sound. Power node has a power amplifier built into it, so 2 by 60 watts. Okay, that's an NAD amplifier, so the 60 watts is quite conservative. NAD amplifiers are consistently underrated when they're tested against other amplifiers. And then we have the Volt, which doesn't really have a competitor at this point. So, okay, so if you want to get something like a Volt, your next step up is into a NAD 50.2 or a NAME, and that's up around $5,000 or $6,000. So we don't really have a natural competitor for it. Amazing device. Holds up to 12 to 15,000 CDs in FLAC. Bit perfect ripping, so it takes bit by bit of the CD and makes sure that it gets everything. Whereas if you put a CD into your computer and let iTunes rip it, it's done in what, a minute, 2 minutes. Average CD takes about 10 minutes to rip on a Volt. Okay, you can move your iTunes library into it. The only Bluesound player that requires a wide connection is the Volt, and that's not to stream audio, it's just to get the metadata for your artists, for your CDs, so that you get album artwork, that sort of thing, track listing. So just a little video to play, which should come out through the soundbar. Right, and this is just about what the artist is sort of trying to achieve when they create a piece of music and what they want the customer to hear, and how, I guess, the evolution of wireless, or MP3s has kind of had an influence on that.
Smell it, it's heavy, and it just hangs in the reverse.
I say music give hope to people who had no hope.
When something can change the way you feel physically, you feel different after hearing something. It's amazing.
I couldn't imagine life without it.
I survived because of it.
It's a fantastic time to love music. The downside, it's unnecessarily compressed.
We just have been sort of lost in this black hole.
You would think that we would evolve with all the other art forms, but we haven't.
You don't hear the complexity of the song with compressed MP3s.
It's a distortion of the art. It's like looking at a Van Gogh through filtered glasses.
The listener doesn't know, so he doesn't care. He doesn't even know that it can sound that.
What we've learned in the last 10 years is people will sacrifice anything for convenience.
It's very easily accessible, so it's very easy to throw away.
We have an adult generation of music consumers.
A lot of work goes into making something sound a certain way, and then somebody streams it in the worst possible compression format and then listens to it on their shitty laptop speakers. That's not what the artist intended.
That was a good example of the soundbar's flexibility, just connected to the laptop via Bluetooth, and there you go.
Right. Any questions on what we've that's a quick overview of Bluesound and how it came to be. Okay, so it's come out of NAD and PSP speakers in the Lembrook family to get into the wireless streaming space. And as you heard, that's made my Surface go from sounding like crap to, much better. What we're going to do now is just we're going to show you how to set the players up and what you can do with them. So you just want to factory reset it again, Paul.
So all the players basically, and even the Volt as well, factory reset in the same way. So it just involves unplugging the power cable. All the other players, apart from the soundbar, they have a button or an LED touchscreen on the front. This isn't a touchscreen for the soundbar, so the standby button is at the back. So all you have to do is hold that standby button down, plug it back into power, and it will go red and then turn to a solid green. And when it turns solid green, it acknowledges that you're holding the standby button and that you're going into factory reset mode. So then it will go to solid red, and after 30 seconds, it will start flashing red. And once that flashing starts, you can take your finger off the button. Usually cues in about that time. There we go. And once that factory reset is finished, it will go back to solid red and then it will boot back up. what a factory reset does, it forgets all network configurations, playlists, or anything that someone had programmed into the player. So once that network configuration has been wiped out, it will flash green and then it'll go to solid green after it doesn't find the network. And that means it's in hotspot mode. So it's accessible on any device, your mobile, your laptop, your tablets, and it will come up as a Wi-Fi source. So then you will just click on Bluesound soundbar, and then you just need to go to, we'll show the example at the same time. It hasn't quite gone green yet, it's still booting. So once it does flash green, then goes solid green, it will show up there just like he else has, as you can see. And then all you need to do is connect to it as a, there you go. So you'd click onto it, you'd connect to it as a Wi-Fi source, and then just open up bluesound.support, and then it will open up a menu and show you basically what's inside the soundbar. And you just configure wireless, pick what wireless network you want to connect to, type in the password, and done. It's connected. That quick start guide is also in every box of the Bluesound product as well. It'll come with a quick setup guide, and even in the app itself, once you download the app to your phone, it will take you step by step on how to connect as well. So they've made it very easy for an end user or anybody to set the player up, regardless what technical level they're at.
So once you've connected to the player, go to setupbluesound.com.
And that's the menu that I was just referring to.
Configure your Wi-Fi network. So you just punch in your passcode.
You can even change the name of the player to soundbar living room or so forth and so on.
There we go, we've got the player set up. So if we then go back to the BluOs app,
and that's turned solid blue, so it's grabbed the network and it's on the network there.
got to go back to reconnect, then you've got to reconnect to your
And so yeah, the BluOs controller is available on desktop, Mac, iPhone, Samsung, all kinds of tablets. It's pretty versatile. And the software and basically everything inside BluOs is Linux based. So even if you are pro Linux, very few percent people are, but it does work there as well.
So you can see now over the right hand side we've got the soundbar as a Bluesound player. Right, so then all we need to do is pick a source. So we'll go to title.
Click on the actual soundbar.
So if you're familiar with title, the reason we use title in our demo is that title has masters which plays back in MQA format. So it's high res audio. Any requests?
Pick a song, any song.
No? George Michael, that George Michael song. You want to narrow that down a bit?
Yeah, so title is a very good way to find high quality audio very quickly. As you can see, all we had to do was click into the title app, click masters, so short for master quality audio, and it just gives you a list of albums and artists that have albums at the highest quality that you can.
Unfortunately, we don't have any George Michael. Well, title doesn't have George Michael in MQA, so take it up with title.
And just to give a good example as well, as we've already explained, the battery comes along with the flex, it makes it completely wireless, so I'm going to put it near the back of the room here. And we'll let the soundbar play first, and then we'll group the flex into it, and then you hear the noise travel behind you as well, even more. And it's very easy to do. I'm not sure how many people can see with this light for the projector. There you go. And to group a player, all you have to do is press that plus symbol, and the flex will grab whatever the soundbar is playing and play it as well. It's like a ghost. Yes, there is a little bit of a
So you can hear it's coming out the flex as well. So that's out of the soundbar and the flex. So if you want to ungroup them, you just hit the X, then we can go to the flex. Go back to title.
So when you've got a player selected, that creates it as the main player. So if you've got the player selected and you choose a song, and then you group another one, it plays whatever the flex is playing. So it's whatever player you have selected as the, we'll say it's the master player at the time. And that's playing back there. Say for instance you're listening to the song in the kitchen and you want to play it on the soundbar, you can just hit that plus button and it will carry the song over.
So fairly straightforward, fairly user-friendly. So now, like I said before, if you want to go to things like title, you'll have a list down here of available services. So all you need to do is go to whichever one you prefer or you use. So whether it's Spotify, Tidal, whatever else you're into, you go into the BluOs app and you just put your login details in, right? And then it's there. You don't have to open up the Tidal app on your phone to play Tidal through your Bluesound product. It will all be controlled through the BluOs app. The other thing too is if you, like me, you've got BluOs on all your devices. So I've got it on my phone, my iPad, my Surface and my desktop. So if I'm sitting at the computer doing something and I get up and move around the house, I can pick up my phone, open the BluOs app, and it's a seamless transition, right? There's no need to start again. It says exactly what's already happening and allows you to just continue, okay? So there's quite a bit of flexibility there. Anything else, Paul?
Yeah, well, as you can see here, the reason why we use Tidal, it's a really good example to show the extent of the app and the ease of use as well. You can see an autofill here. So basically, Tidal automatically grabs basically likewise songs to what you were just listening to. So same genre, similar sound, in case you felt like listening to just that type of music. You can turn that off in the settings or just hit that bin there and it will get rid of that. But from that song, it will automatically start playing a similar song that sounds the same and so forth and so on. And once you've gone through a song, say you're listening all day to about 10-15 songs in a row and you really like those songs, in future, instead of having to go back and look for those songs again, it will just allow you to create a playlist from what you were just listening to. So you create a custom playlist like that, and nice and easy, you can listen to that playlist wherever you go.
That's pretty much the BluOs app. So fairly user-friendly, easy to set up. So you can see it took us, what, a minute or two to get the player going, right? Very easy to get going. And very easy to use. And I guess the thing with the soundbar is why I've brought it down is that you can use it as a soundbar, and there's a sub that you can get as well to pair with it, which is basically it's based on a PSP subwoofer. It's also a very good wireless music streamer in its own right, as you just heard. So the customer doesn't get a soundbar because soundbars are limited in their scope of what they can do. So with the Bluesound soundbar, you don't just get that, you get a wireless player as well. So you can watch a movie, and then if you've got people over, you can have music playing in the background through your Pulse soundbar. Right. And the other thing too is the grill's reversible. So it's shiny on one side and matte on the other. So you've got a little bit of flexibility there. I guess you've heard us talk about Gen 1 and Gen 2. The differences between Gen 1 and Gen 2 are mostly aesthetic. The Gen 1, which you guys probably I think still have some of, you can see the shape of the players is very different compared to Gen 2. A few more inputs on the node and power node, and most of the difference is in the firmware and software, and some faster processors. So all of the updates up to the current updates are backwards compatible into all the Gen 1 Bluesound players. So if you've got a Gen 1 player, you don't miss out, you still get the latest software updates, which, like I said, push to the player. I guess the thing when we first got Bluesound was that networking was a fairly foreign concept to Convoy, like most distributors, because we'd traditionally done, you know, home theatre stuff and hi-fi, so we knew about 2-channel, we knew about 5.1 and 7.1, but we didn't know a whole lot about networking. So what we've done is employ Paul. So Paul has a degree in IT and networking, so he knows the ins and outs of networking. All right, so we've given Paul's details to your guys. If you need to get a question answered in business hours, Paul's direct number's on his card. Otherwise, you can email him, Paul@Convoy, and we'll get an answer back to you by the end of the next day. The other thing that we also have is a direct line into Bluesound tech support. So Paul's first day with Convoy, he didn't turn up to our facility. He got on a plane to Canada, to Bluesound headquarters, and went through a 2-week intensive indoctrination into Bluesound. So what Paul doesn't know about Bluesound probably isn't worth knowing. Paul has the highest level access into Bluesound's technical team, and things that we've fed back to them have appeared in future updates after that. So if there's one of the few problems that Paul hasn't encountered, we can generally have an answer back the next day because of the time difference. So it works to our advantage. So we have in-house technical support, not only with traditional electronic technicians, but we also have a network engineer as well. So that's our commitment to making sure that our streaming system gets the highest level support for you guys and for the customer when they take it home. As you can hear, sounds amazing. Yeah. Any questions? Anyone got a Bluesound story? Anyone had any issues with it?
So you can pair up to 64 zones, is that right?
You can create up to 64 zones, yeah.
Do you experience longer latency if you have multiple zones? See how we experience just between linking these two to the app? Was it 1 second delay to catch up?
Basically, so the way it works is once you've got X amount of zones, you can create a fixed group. So that way, instead of the latency, when you open up the app, they're already paired together. So it just really depends on your preferability. You can also create left and right stereo. So I did do a bit of an experiment in the office. I had a soundbar on my desk and 2 flexes on the back of the room. I paired the flexes as a left and right stereo, had the soundbar in front, and just sound traveling everywhere. It was great. I had lots of fun with it. But it is very, very user-friendly in that way. There is very detailed instructions on how to create a fixed group. So all it basically is, it's where the players are. There's a little button at the top, fixed group, and it will ask you, do you want to create a stereo pair or a permanent group? And that's it. And
is there a limit to how many groups you can create?
No. So it obviously, coming from a network perspective, it really depends on how good the internet is and whatnot. If I were to try and sit there and connect 64 players at my house at home, the whole house would be shut down. So it does come with a little bit of give and take, but that's understandable. You really wouldn't have 64 players in your own home thinking more hotels, restaurants, stuff like that. But it is very easy to use once you get everything set up, because unless you factory reset it, it won't forget it. It won't forget your settings, it won't forget your groups. So
And there's an update coming for 5.1, is that right?
Yeah, there'll be a future update. We don't have a date for that yet. We're just talking to Lembrook at the moment, but yeah, we're trying to get a time frame on when BluOs will be able to do that.
And that's another good thing about the players. So when there is an update available, when you open up your BluOs app controller on your phone, it will come up with a prompt saying new update is available. You can choose to delay it 24 hours or install now. Especially for a big update like the 5.1 surround, there's no need to take the player back or anything like that. It will basically just go live on the internet. It will say update, and then all of a sudden someone's got 5.1 Dolby surround in their house. So it's nice and easy.
Do you have the maximum number of songs to play at the same time?
As in,
like in different zones, like 64 zones, and you want to play 64
They're all in
different
different
tunes?
zones.
yeah, it really depends. Say for instance you want to have a hotel room with 64 different rooms and different players in each room, something like that. So if it's all connected to the same network, you can choose each player individually and play individual songs, or you can group them all together so you can have the whole lobby playing one song, and you can have separate rooms playing different songs. So that player will remember that one song that you play, and the group only, so it makes another player piggyback off the master player, so the one that you've selected. So if you group players together, say for instance the flex, I chose the flex and I want to project it to the soundbar, I just hit the little plus symbol. The soundbar doesn't lock onto that song. That's the flex's song that it's just playing at the same time. As soon as you collapse the group, that will go silent and the flex will just keep playing that one song. So, yeah, so depending, each player can play its own song or its own album or so forth and so on. So, yes. short answer, yes.
Do you guys experience any delay in audio from speaker to speaker, zone to zone?
It's never happened because of fault in the player itself, but network connection.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. The players are flawless in their own way, but depending the tech that it has to use, depends how well the player goes. But that's why we do explain in detail, and my number has been given out many times to people that I haven't personally given it out to. I just have a lot of people calling me. Had this one lady on the phone for 40 minutes. I was basically walking her through how to rewire her whole house, and I got everything played over the phone. So everyone does have tech support on hand, so they don't have to sit there and feel scared or alone when setting up these kind of things. There's always something to call.
Does the Wi-Fi piggyback from each device, or does it have like a centralised thing?
So the player will just connect to your modem router, and it will just, everything will just come straight from the modem router. So hub, it will project it that way. So it will take up your bandwidth. So if you sit there and play one, then the other, like I said, it really depends on the person's personal tech. But it doesn't repeat the Wi-Fi connection between the two. Both players will go from the same source.
Yeah, so if you have something like in my house, in the backyard the Wi-Fi is rubbish.
Yeah. If you have a player in the backyard where the Wi-Fi is rubbish, you may experience any drawbacks.
But if I have like a speaker in the kitchen, you can't piggyback off the Wi-Fi.
No, it doesn't act as a Wi-Fi repeater. That would be cool, because you wouldn't need to buy a repeater then. But it all grabs from the same source, regardless how far away or close to the router it is.
Anyone else?
Thanks for coming in, guys.
No worries, thanks for your time.